Hello everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn and I'm joined by the wonderful Tina Victoria Afshar. Hi Tina, how are you?
Hello Flynn, I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be hanging out with you. Tina and I have been chatting since last time you were on about what should we do next. We had a lot of fun last time. We're doing this gradient mesh, which was really cool. I'm sure you saw it as well. There's quite a few people that kind of followed your tutorial and made them themselves. And then uploaded, I think Adam was one of those people.
Yes, that was awesome.
It was super cool to see people kind of putting in their own spin on it and playing around. And today will be no different. You can kind of follow along. You can watch it on the replay and follow the steps and do these things yourselves.
So I put together this bit of a few examples, courtesy of Flynn's inspiration, but I think it will be fun. And it is a bit like, Design 101 when you animate words or when you play on words and make imagery out of type. So it's going to be a very going back to basics, but with a fun twist to it.
Yeah.
I think. So, friends, we're going to go through 4 verbs today. Static is one of them. So this is something I did earlier. It kind of like the HBO logo, it kind of moves in and out of focus.
Cool.
I reckon we should make our compositions ready for Instagram stories, because if we don't upload them onto Instagram, no one's going to know we did this.
Do they exist?
Do they exist? All right. So we're going 1080 by 1920. My frame rate is going to be 24, and that's going to be important because once we start putting in our keyframes, I'm going to be jumping between frames, like specific frames, and if they're in increments of 4, it's easier to look at them. It's a whole thing. And then let's make our background white as well, and that's it. That's the only setup you need to do for now.
Cool.
Okay, all right, so first things first, let's write our word static, but let's make it nice and big. I've made mine 260 pixels by 270, and just a nice thick typeface, whichever one that you want to use. Make it bold or black. The more thick it is, the better the effect will latch onto it. And then the second thing we want to do is just center align it to your artboard. We're going to be spending a lot of time in the effects and presets panel. This is my best friend, so I don't always know what I'm going to choose, but because I've pre-planned this, we're going to create the static effect. We're going to go for a scatter effect here.
Okay.
And there's 2. There's one for a simulation and one to stylize. Choose the stylize scatter and just drag and drop it onto your text layer. And I just want to show you what this looks like on its own. It kind of already gets that static effect the higher you go out. So it's kind of already doing our job for us. And this is going to be a very quick tutorial. All right, what are the notes that I wrote? All right, so we want our grain, which is the second option. We want it to go horizontal. So if I make it horizontal, it looks like this. That just means that the grain is moving in this direction. If we want it to be vertical, obviously it moves up and down, leaving the center parts of the text untouched. Now you can do anywhere you want to go with. I found that horizontal looks the most like it's a static expression. And then we want our randomness to be turned on. That just means that the pixels of the text that it's choosing isn't specified to be like the top or the bottom of the words. It's just everywhere. And that kind of reflects more of when a static expression happens. So again, if I move this, it feels a little bit more organic.
That's cool.
But we're going to start with 0. All right. The reason why we went with 24 frames at the beginning is because we want the frames that we see in our timeline to be increments of 4. So we're going to go to our frame 8, and we're just going to apply a keyframe here for a static amount of 0. So nothing is touching it. It just looks like our beautiful static on its own.
Right.
Then we're going to jump to almost a whole second later, and we're going to amp it up. We're going to make it 500. Woo! Now it feels like something's happening. Then we're going to go for another second later. So we're on 2 seconds 12, and we're going to bring it right back down to 0. And Now, if we just take a look at it, it starts zoop, and then it goes back to normal.
Right.
But we're not done yet. Because do you know what is the most important rule of motion graphics? You got to apply the easy ease.
Always.
So, always the easy ease. So anybody who hasn't used it, you can select all your keyframes and then hover over one, right click, and then under keyframe assistant, select easy ease. Something I learned recently is if you go to your graph editor and you can see that now with our easy ease applied, it just means that there's like a smooth transition from when it starts to when it ends. It kind of like starts slowly, builds up, and then ends slowly. But the influence is something that we can play with. And what I mean by influence is how quickly you want your action to move and how quickly you want it to stop, or how slowly you want it to begin and how slowly you want it to end. Typically, if your two keyframes are within like a second apart, that's a fair duration of time. So you can make the influence higher. So what I mean by that is if I just select my first keyframe and then these little handles pop up and I move the handle, see how at the bottom it's telling me the percentage of influence. You can take it up to 70, and that means that it will start slower and speed up faster.
Right. Which
is nicer when you've got a bit of time between the two distances. Typically 70% influence is a good number. If your two keyframes are really close together, like say they're, I don't know, 2 frames apart, that's way too close. It's not enough time for it to speed up slowly and end slowly. It'll look a bit jagged, so you want your influence to be lower. Bit of like Ross Geller, you want it to be lower. Yeah. And now because we've played around with it, you can kind of see starts and then ends slowly. It's like a deep breath.
Cool.
But we're not done yet. The last little bit that we want to do, and this will make us feel like we're real motion graphic designers, is we're going to add a bit of code. We're going to add a little bit of an expression. The reason why we want to do that is if we watch the original, see how it starts, and then there's that little bounce at the end where that little bit of static happens. So it finishes, and then you get like that little feedback at the end that it's not quite done yet. Okay. We want to do that, but we don't want to manually do it. We want After Effects to do it for us. So I'm going to add an expression. One of the rules, if you want to add an expression or a bounce expression to your keyframes, the last keyframe can't have an easy ease. So to just remove my easy ease from it, I just have to go Command and click, and then that easy ease effect is taken off. If you've got easy ease on the last keyframe, it doesn't work. Your expression doesn't take. I don't even know if that's the right description for it. But where we put our expressions is just by, and I might Command Z so we can do it again together. If you click and hold down Option and click on the little clock next to scatter amount, it'll open up this little window, and just Command and paste or copy and paste the expression in there. This is our bounce expression. Again, I don't know a whole lot about it, but what it does is that it adds amplification, frequency, and a bit of decay or delay, in other words, to your movement, which is awesome. It does a lot of what we would have to do with keyframes on our own. The reason for that is I need to amplify it up. So we want to make our amplification, which I think it is when, hang on, I've got it in my notes somewhere. I think amplification is pretty much like the visual of what we see, like how much we get shown. Frequency is how often we get that little static moving around. But I'm going to move up my amplification to 40 because I want it to really get static. And then we're going to make the frequency about maybe 10 and see how that looks. A lot of motion design is just testing and seeing what works. Like a bit of
trial and error.
Exactly. There we go. That did it. So it kind of zoom and then like a little bit at the end. So anyway, I'm going to let everybody play with that and decide what amplification they want to use.
That's cool.
But it was just one effect, and we got that nice static HBO look and feel to it right before Game of Thrones starts to play. God, I miss that.
Oh yeah. It's the sound that goes with that.
Yeah. Yes. I think you've nailed it. That was it.